It's Enemy Sidelines presented by Microsoft. Joining me this week, Hayley Elwood. She's a team reporter for the Los Angeles Chargers. Hayley, welcome in. I know the Chargers are going to have about 10 days off before they play this game on Sunday against the Texans. It can never be easy losing in overtime to a division rival, but what's the mood like for the Chargers heading into this game?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much for having me on. It's so good to see you, albeit virtually. We haven't done our combine thing in quite a while, but
no, we haven't.
I know it's good to connect this way. But yeah, so obviously that loss on Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs did drop this Chargers team to 8-6, but the mood is actually great. It's actually really fine. And after the game, even head coach Brandon Staley said, hey, our outlook would not have changed whether we won this game or lost this game. And when you look at sort of just that steady hand and steady consistency, this is a team throughout this season that has sort of weathered highs and lows. They've had some bumps in the road, but they've been able to overcome those and have really gotten them in a great position right now. They are in wild card standing as we sit here in week 16. But while that game didn't go the way that they had hoped and probably anticipated, it's on to the next, and that's against the Texans this week.
Yeah, they've certainly had some big close losses this year. And then we saw the news on Monday that Joey Bosa will be out for Sunday's game. I mean, I know a guy like that is hard to replace, but how do you replace a guy like that on defense? And who's going to have to step up for him on the Chargers D?
Yeah, the thing about Joey too is even though he is now accrued years in this league, he is second longest tenured Charger, original Charger on this team next to Keenan Allen, but he's got an NFL leading 6 strip sacks. So his production will certainly be missed. But when you look at who could replace him, look to a guy like Uchenna Nwosu, who is currently, he has stated playing the best football of his career at this point. He had a strip sack on Joe Burrow against the Bengals. He had his first career interception against Patrick Mahomes last Thursday night, which eventually led to a touchdown on the next offensive play. He has just really been a force out there. But Brandon Staley said, look, along with someone probably like Uchenna, it's going to be a team operation. This defense has had a lot of substitutions, a lot of different hybrid type groupings, as Staley calls it, throughout the season, whether it's been injuries or COVID. So this team has certainly dealt with next man up, and it's certainly going to be that this week again.
Yeah. And let's talk about head coach Brandon Staley. I mean, it's his first year and he's led this team to an 8-6 record. You know, what is the most surprising thing about him as head coach? What's it been like working for him?
Yeah, I think one of the things that he's had certainly a meteoric rise. That was a phrase that's been used to describe him when he got hired by the Bolts. But when you look at what he's brought to this team, it really comes down to building relationships and building camaraderie. He's huge on that. He's talked about it even when he's spoken to the staff, that's a big part of his philosophy. One of the things he also has talked about too throughout this whole season is really kind of communicating with players, but on a different level of talking to them about what he thinks works for them, types of plays that works, getting their sort of mindset and MO on going into a game and being like, hey, against this opponent, let's run this, let's go with this. And that sort of camaraderie breeds trust. And you've seen that. And you've seen that even when kind of times have gotten tough and in late game situations, I think against maybe the Cleveland Browns, where that game became a complete shootout. But this team ended up holding and holding on strong. You can look to that Sunday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. That sort of camaraderie that he's brought and bred has really made a huge difference on this team. I even look at someone, I wrote a note down here of Justin Jones, defensive tackle, who talked or just spoke earlier this week and said, you know, despite that loss that they had on Thursday, he's like, I love the guys in this room. I love this locker room. These are the guys I want to go to war with every game day. And I think that really starts at the top, and that starts with Staley. And that's something that he's brought. And whether you're on offense or defense, it's just radiated throughout this locker room.
All right. Well, he comes in, he inherits a quarterback in Justin Herbert, who was just coming off a phenomenal rookie year. And then I just saw recently he became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw at least 30 touchdown passes in his first 2 seasons. He did it in week 14. So he gets Justin Herbert. I mean, I have to imagine that can't be easy for a rookie quarterback to change head coaches, but what has he done to sort of help Herbert make that leap from year 1 to year 2 and keep things as consistent as he can keep them, considering there was a coaching staff change?
Yeah. And a guy who Herbert actually really said who credits, I think, with his development is now with you guys and Pep Hamilton as well. But when you look at Justin Herbert, when you were saying that, I was kind of like not rolling my eyes, but just going, it really does feel almost like every week it's a new record for him and something that he's breaking or doing that has never been done before. And when you look at what sort of Staley's influence on him has been, it really from the get-go was, we want to build this offense around Justin. we've seen what he can do. We saw what he did his rookie season. Let's build it. Let's take it to another level. He surrounded him with an offensive coordinator in Joe Lombardi, who's accrued a lot of years in this league, specifically working with the New Orleans Saints for a multitude of those, and working with a guy, former Charger, and Drew Brees, but just really kind of getting that sort of veteran presence with him. Also, again, that collaboration, that discussion. Brandon Staley is a former quarterback as well, who primarily now coaches defense, but has that sort of all 22 view. So really it came down to sort of building the offense around him. And you've seen that progression. And I think even though statistically he is doing things that have never been done before, it's impressive still to see his poise out there because he is still so young. And I think Chris Hayre, our other team reporter, and I have talked about this in some of the games that maybe haven't gone the Chargers' way. You look at the Baltimore loss, the New England loss. Sometimes you forget that Herbert is only in his second season, but really he is doing things that you just kind of sit and marvel at. And he is such a great leader for this team. And I think when you look at franchises, you look at maybe the Niners, the Packers, when you go from one great quarterback to the next, these Charger fans are really lucky that this has worked out so far for them to go from Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Pep Hamilton, who has a rookie in Davis Mills that he's working with this year. Like you mentioned, he worked with Herbert last year when he was a rookie. What was his role with him, and how did that relationship sort of develop? What has Herbert had to say about that?
Yeah, he was the quarterback's coach with the Chargers. And I think he came in, you look at the resume that Pep had working with someone like Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. He was such a great guy to come in and work with Justin Herbert. Their relationship was really strong. And like I said, Justin credits Pep with a lot of the success that he had. I was up in Oregon this past summer at Herbert's golf tournament, his first annual golf tournament that he had. And Pep was there. And I thought that was really cool to see that, Eugene, Oregon, not exactly a destination spot in the summer, but to go up for Pep to go up
from Houston, it is perhaps.
That's accurate. Yeah. The humidity was non-existent there. Right. So that was lovely. But I just thought that was really cool. And it just kind of shows you the bond that they did have. And I think that was just a really great sort of mentorship role for someone like Pep to come in and have that. And I'm sure it's working. I know Davis Mills got his first win last week against the Jaguars, but I'm sure that's just a great hub to kind of have and to huddle up with, especially when you're beginning your NFL career.
All right. Austin Eckler. He's been a huge red zone target for Herbert this year, 10 rushing touchdowns, 7 receiving touchdowns. We saw earlier in the week that maybe he might be on the COVID report, the list. Maybe he could play, maybe he might not play. But if he doesn't play, how do you replace a guy like Eckler in that offense?
Yeah, this is an interesting situation and one to watch as we certainly tape on, what day is it? Tuesday here? As we tape on Tuesday. A lot of days left to get to before Sunday. Look to a guy like Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson had 86 rushing yards versus the Chiefs. He really came alive. He is someone throughout his NFL career has just dealt with injuries, but when he's healthy, he really, really is slippery out there. He was breaking tackles. He was shaking tackles against Kansas City last week. And to me, as someone who's been with this team for a while, when the Chargers, played the Steelers, I want to say in 2018, Justin Jackson had the game of his life in that game. So really look to him. I know this team is kind of looking to solidify that number 2 running back. It's been a sort of work by committee approach between Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, Larry Roundtree, but Jackson seems to be now the leader in the clubhouse. And if he's healthy this week, he'll certainly be that go for them for sure.
All right. Well, a guy that you guys know very well, that we've gotten to know very well over the course of the year, Desmond King. I know he was traded to the Titans last year, but he spent a lot of time with the Chargers as well. He's doing some great things on punt returns and on defense back in the secondary. What do you remember about your time with Desmond King and what he was able to do when he was with the Chargers?
Yeah, that was actually really what he did well for the Bolts as well. He was one of those, the defensive backs in the Chargers room. I know that they've lost a couple pieces, Desmond being one of them, but they used to be known as the Jack Boys, where they would just, jack things up, if you will, take interceptions, do all of that. I'm not going to get into semantics. It's not my thing,
we get where you're going.
But you can get where I'm going with that. But he certainly kind of brought that spark, specifically, I think of when he was paired up with Derwin and what they could do together. I have a great Desmond story, actually. Back before COVID was non-existent, I used to do a thing where we would do ride-alongs. So I'd ride home with a guy. We'd have a trail car follow us. We'd, once we got there, pick up, go back to the facility. And Desmond was such a great sport. And I remember we did the interview. He was great. He was in an awesome mood. He was super fun. And he had looked at me and he goes, "You caught me on a good day, Hayley." And I was like, really glad to do it because I know that not everyone wants to do things like this, but it's just those moments. He was really fun to work with. It'll be a great reunion to see what he can do. Obviously a different quarterback that he's going to go up against because he only knew Philip, but really, really good opportunity. And it should be a fun one out there watching him battle.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like not much has changed because we've done radio with him. He's always great. It's not his favorite thing to do, but I was like, you need to do this more. You're really good at doing interviews and stuff. You're really good on camera. So I don't know. We'll see. We planted the seed, but Hayley, always a pleasure. You are fantastic on camera as always, and on radio, wherever you are. Looking forward to seeing your content. Hayley, team reporter for the Los Angeles Chargers. Looking forward to seeing the Chargers here on Sunday, week 16.
Thank you so much for having me, Deepi. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, and go Texans. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for new content.